All right, everybody. Here, this is going to be, I think, April 8th. This could be very well the last video of the week as we're going into, we're going to begin entering phase 2, and we're going to find a way somehow to do some lessons face-to-face. This, however, I think is the best way to cover the content that we're going to need for the AP exam. And imperialism will most likely be, it's looking like the last unit before that. So stay tuned for that. I know many of you are asking me questions, and again, my office hours are from 11 to 1. I check email before and after. A lot of you guys go, Mr. Melega, I need this, I need this. Well, sometimes, guys, I'm out here filming these, and I cannot answer email and film these presentations at the same time. We also had a faculty meeting, and we were told less is more. So I'm going to try and keep these things to about 20 to 25 minutes, but if it's okay with you guys to go a little bit longer, that's the feedback I need. I know we're all in a unique situation here with coronavirus homeschool, so the more information you can give me, the better we will do it. And try to turn in assignments on Google Classroom so I can give you feedback on that assignment rather than going through email and turning my computer to try and figure out a picture. But I'm very flexible. Do what you are capable of doing, and we will find a way to make it work. So again, I hope everybody's doing well. This is going to be imperialism in India. And a couple of reasons for imperialism is, one, countries want raw materials to super produce things for the Industrial Revolution. Secondly, it is the era of nationalism. I am England, I am France, I am Germany, I am Italy, and we want to demonstrate our power by increasing colonies. It's prestige. Number three, to be safe. We need industrial resources to build up our armies, and I want colonies that border on my neighbors so I can keep an eye and see what they are doing. And as always, social Darwinism. All right? My country is better than your country. You know it. You know, it's a little mudslide crush from Lemonade Mouth there. So today we are going to India. And by the 1600s, it is the British East India Company who controls trade coming out of India. Investors in the company had invested in ships that are to go to India. All right, you can see the pink shaded areas are going to be the areas colonized and taken over by Great Britain. The brownish areas, a good bit of it is the Deccan Plateau. So they're going to go down to India. They're going to bring back raw materials to be sold, and they expect to make a great deal of profit for this. They're able to gain access to 2 trading ports on the coastline of India. And it's all due because the builder of this monument, Shah Jahan, gave them access. And in India, we're going to talk a lot about the role of the British East India Company. All right? They are very, very sneakily smart. All right? As the Mughal dynasty, Akbar the Great's descendants, begin to weaken, the company slowly, very almost imperceptibly, increases their power over the land of India and its resources and its people. All right, they go to the old playbook of pitting opponents against each other, letting them weaken themselves, and then the British move in and take over. The East India Company controls nearly the entire northern section of the Mughal Empire. They do this once again by exploiting the diversity amongst the people, the religions, the languages, the ethnic backgrounds. Again, they instigate conflicts, Oh, hey, Owen, did you hear what Luke said about you? Oh, hey, Luke, did you hear what Owen said about you? And those two start fighting. By the time they're done, they're breathing heavy, they're battered and bruised. It's very easy for the British to swoop in and then take over. So very, very, very quickly, India is being dominated. So the British If that technique doesn't work, they can always go to the sheer vast military superiority to take over and get what they want. And so the big question is, was there any positive of this for India? Well, we are going to see here. Again, the main goal of the East India Company is simply once again to make money for its investors. It's no longer the mother country, but it is the investment company. Now, some of the things that were done to aid the East India Company are going to have a smallish positive effect on India. Because of India's large size, it didn't have a lot of good infrastructure, roads, bridges, railroads, and those type of things. So the British are going to develop a new road system. They're going to develop a railroad system and a telegraph system. Now, that all sounds good, but it comes with a catch. The one good thing is the presence of England kept the crime rate low, and it kind of softened tension between two conflicting groups. The British Army was there to keep the peace. Now, while this sounds good for the people of India, the British did it to be able to get direct access to the resources. I build a railroad right to where the resources I want. I load them on my steam engine. I chug a Thomas the Tank Engine back to a port, load it on a steamship, and it goes back to England. So they open it up, they connect it, they reduce crime, but it's always again to make money. And so the British also believe their way of life was much better. So they want to bring social change as well. And one of the things that England wants to get rid of is the caste system, this social class hierarchy that just makes them feel icky. Especially the practice of the sati, where traditionally in passionate Hindu cells, when a husband dies, the woman is supposed to throw herself on his burning funeral pyre. The British are like, whoa, 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 whoa. We just can't have that. So they want to bring Christianity in. It is a new religion that is going to be introduced. And there's a more deep competition with not only traditional Hinduism, but Islam as well. And since Hinduism is a polytheistic religion, Christians felt that they must eliminate those pagans and convert them to Christianity. And this is going to lead to a big conflict known as the Sepoy Rebellion. England's lack of cultural understanding, right, is going to lead to a conflict. Remember that story I told you about my shipping manager and the Japanese guys at GKN? Well, that happens on a large level here. The British are going to bring in, Hindu and Muslim Indians into their army. But the British reserve the top positions for not only the military, but also for businesses for Englishmen. So native Indians cannot have the top job even in their own country. Even Western educated Indians were not allowed to serve in these positions. England is going to dominate all the business and industrial assets in the country. And this is going to cause them many problems. By not letting Indians benefit from this is going to have some massive repercussions. It's going to lead to what is known as the Sepoy Rebellion. Here's my little pig, here's Wilbur, and here's Bessie, the cow. The most serious of these errors was the British treatment of Indian soldiers. The British Army is going to make two very big mistakes. Because of the large size of the British Empire, the British need soldiers to go across the world. So they do have some Hindu and Muslim soldiers. And they tell the Hindu soldiers, look man, we are not ever going to ship you to other parts of the empire. It is against your religion. You can stay here at home. Well, all of a sudden, when problems sprang up everywhere, the British need soldiers. They want the Sepoys to get on ships and go help them put down some of their other problems. Well, the difficulty with that is Sepoys were forbidden to travel outside India. It was offensive to their religion. They couldn't do it. And the British are going, no, you work for us, you're going to do what we tell you. And the second problem comes up in 1857, which sounds good. Right? It's a technological advancement that really pays dividends for the British Army. In the old days, you had your musket and you had your powder horn, and you counted 1001, 1002, 1003 as you dumped your gunpowder in the barrel. Then you put your patch and your wadding over it, then your mini ball, and then you rammed it down. Well, that's great, but it takes a long time. Some of the best shots could get off 3, maybe 4 shots per minute. But when you ship that gunpowder from Great Britain to India, it gets wet. When gunpowder gets wet, it kind of, cakes together and you can't use it. So how do we, A, speed the rate of firing, and B, how do we keep our gunpowder dry? Well, the British began to pre-measure gunpowder in paper cylinders, all right? And on top of it, it had the little metal mini ball. So what you would do is you would simply bite off the top, right? You would dump in the gunpowder, squish your, little, I'm sorry, I got distracted. Crush the little paper wadding, put the mini ball on top of it, and pack it down. It took away the counting. Sorry, one of my kids needed me. I gotta get back on track here. Anyway, this would allow the British to get off maybe 5 shots per minute. Big problem is, the thing is paper, because you want to use it to be your wadding for the bullet, but paper coming from England gets wet. Best way to keep it safe would be to what? And I know some of you are saying wax. Yes, exactly. In the form of beef tallow or pork fat. Think of when you cook some bacon, the grease, when it coagulates, you wipe it on there, it'll keep it waterproof. Problem is, for Hindus, cows are a sacred animal, and for Muslims, they're not allowed to eat pork. And so, all of a sudden, the British, when they hear that not only will Sepoys not travel abroad, but they won't use this new technology, they discharge the Indian soldiers from the British Army. And as a result of this, there's going to be a massive rebellion. The Sepoys are going to attack and fight some British villages. When people are killed and massacred, the British retaliate. And so this violence goes back and forth, the British versus the Sepoys. So as a result of the Sepoy Rebellion, the British Parliament ends the reign of the East India Company. It says, we left you bozos in charge down there. You're not handling it. We are no longer going to use indirect control. The Queen or the King is going to send down a royal governor down there to take control of India in 1858. India is placed under the direct authority of the English crown. And to make sure this violence stops, more soldiers are sent. Just as the British had done to the Americans before the Revolution, the British make the Indian citizens pay more taxes to pay for the British soldiers to come there. And so when India becomes a direct colony ruled by the Queen, India is going to be folded into the overall British economy. And it's going to play a massive, massive role. The British government felt that by working with high caste Indians, India, if the Indians would work with them, India would become the crown jewel in the British Empire. So as such, it's the governmental policies of England to make India fit, or the government economic policy is going to revolve around making India fit into the overall British scheme. The British get rich off of things from India, from cotton to spices. They're going to bring out opium from what is today Pakistan, and they're going to sell it to the Chinese. The British get crazy rich off of India. Again, the main goal is to make money. And the British are going to justify their actions by saying, well, gee, we're helping India modernize. We're doing it to help them. Once again, they should be saying thank you. And so they enforce ideas of Western technology and Western culture to maximize the accumulation of raw materials that they can turn into finished British products. The road system, the railroad system, the communication network is opened up throughout India just for that purpose. And so this is going to pit the British and the Indians against each other. There's going to be the growing movement of Indian nationalism that'll take until after World War II to come to fruition. I see how much time I have here, about 5 more minutes or so. So the native Indians and the British simply don't like each other very much. And they've got two differing viewpoints on how things should be done. And within India and within England, there were further divisions. There are some Indians who had been educated in the West. And some of them say that it's British industrial power and technology that are imperative for our progress. We need to learn from the West to help us get better and grow as a country. There was another group of Western educated Indians that said that, you know, our culture we're an ancient river valley civilization going back to Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Look, what we've been doing has been working for thousands of years. What's happening here is a threat to our traditional Hindu and Islamic culture. So we should not be emulating the West. We saw what they do and we want to resist it. And there is a great Indian scholar named Ram Mohan Roy. R-A-M-M-O-H-U-N-R-O-Y. And Ram Mohan Roy comes up with a rather unique idea. He kind of embodied these divided beliefs. Roy believed that India should learn what it could from the West and then modify it to help reshape and recharge traditional Indian culture. Let's adapt our traditional culture and make it ready for the modern world. He said the caste system has got to go. It has been holding India back for centuries. And he also did not like the divisiveness that existed between Hindus and Muslims. He said that our fighting doesn't help each other either. So Ram is going to set up schools to promote and teach Indian culture. But some of the schools will be based on Western models. And his movement is going to kickstart Indian nationalism. And it will, a product of it will be the great Indian nationalist Mahatma Gandhi. So as for the British viewpoint, we're going to get here in 1 second. For the British viewpoint, there's, Jewel of the Crown, a nice little movie there. The British were also divided in their opinions in India. Some intellectuals were fascinated by ancient Indian religion and philosophy. They really got into Hinduism. They learned about India's ancient river valley past, and they respected it. Unfortunately, most people in England knew very little about India or its achievements, so they looked down upon them as inferior. And there is a famous British statesman, a guy by the name of Thomas Macaulay, is going to say, this is his quote, I know it sounds crazy, it's kind of a paraphrase, but he'll say, "It's no exaggeration for me to say that all the historical information which has been collected from all the books written in the Sanskrit language is of less value than what may be found in the smallest book in the poorest library in the poorest British school." All right? That all the historical information which has been collected from all the books written in the Sanskrit language is less valuable than what may be found in the most paltry abridgment used at an elementary school in England. So the smallest, worst book in the worst school in English is better than everything combined in India. I know, it kind of just blows you away that somebody felt this way. Macaulay also felt that if British educated Indians should try to increase British power. Heck with your own people, work with us, all right? England made you what you were, all right? Not your traditional viewpoints, all right? We really helped you out, so come on, man. You want to be doing this, or do you want to be riding in a train? And so what I think is funny, it is actually the British educated Indian elites who know about democracy, they know about education and legal systems that help form the Indian nationalistic movement, right, which will eventually help them throw off the yoke of British rule. This is going to become known as the Indian National Congress. And in 1885, the people of India create this, known as the Inc. And it is made up of educated people, mostly professionals, who think that diplomacy and peaceful protest would earn them their independence. They also support modernization and industrialization. I'm close to finishing, so I'm just going to roll on, guys. However, England is going to hold on to India with both hands. Once again, they made a lot of money from it. And eventually it's going to be Mahatma Gandhi. This is one of my favorite photos of going over there. You can see this electrical pole and how many legal and spliced in electrical lines are spliced in here. Man, it is hardcore. Anyway, it's going to be Mahatma Gandhi is going to lead the Indian National Congress, and it'll take him through World War II, as I showed you earlier. But in 1947, India will achieve independence from the British, but then we turn it into a struggle between Hindu Indians and Islamic Indians that will lead to the creation of the modern nation of Pakistan, but we will get there later. And the new hot topic sometimes in world history is what happened in Australia. I'm going to do that real quick. In 1770, British Sea Captain James Cook is going to stop just south of the modern-day city of Sydney, Australia, with its opera house. It's on the east coast, and he names the land Botany Bay from all the plants and new animal species that he had never seen before. And he claims Australia as a new continent for English King George III, the same George III in power during our revolution. Well, a few years later in 1786, the British cabinet approved the establishment of a new colony for British criminals, British prisoners in Botany Bay. Right? England was having a difficult time dealing with all of them, so we'll just ship them out of here. Botany Bay will become a permanent island prison for these criminals. So in 1787, 11 ships will set sail for Australia with 1,000 prisoners on board and some, jailers and some military officers and British government people. And they make it by January of 1788. And the new British governor, a guy named Arthur Phillip, moves the colony to the present-day location of Sydney. And Governor Phillip puts the criminals to work, says, you miserable slobs want to eat, you have to work. Problem is, a lot of these guys were city people or criminals or mentally, they had mental difficulties, learning disabilities. So many of the prisoners knew nothing about farming and agriculture. And so when it's all said and done, the settling of the island by the British was done with pure human physical labor. The prison guards and soldiers knew nothing about what they were doing, but they did believe they should have to participate in the back-breaking work to survive. That's the job of these criminals. Both male and female convicts were sent in, and they were subjected to just bitter treatment, harsh discipline, beatings, lashings, and just very primitive conditions. Many of the prison guards and military officers were from the middle class in England, and they began to live like lords, to live like aristocrats in this new colony. They tried to become an aristocracy and separate themselves from the criminals and the poor. And when and if anybody in Botany Bay finished out their term of sentence and they were still alive, they were supposed to be released, but now they're poor, they're peasants, they're just the dregs of society in Australia. And so with the imperialization of Australia, Great Britain gains not only a large continent, but a brand new colony. And it grows as an outlet for British criminals, but those seeking land and a fortune in a faraway overseas area will move there to try and make themselves rich as well. All right, that's it for imperialism in India and in Australia. Tomorrow we'll hit the Ottoman Empire.